Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about the Farmer's Almanac Winter Forecast and the Old Farmer's Almanac Winter Forecast 2022-2023. So for some people, this may seem pretty early, right? It's August, late August. We're talking about the winter, but in reality, right, this is when we start kind of usually doing these speculative talks, if you will, about the upcoming winter. Now, obviously, winter forecasts should be taken with almost a grain of salt. I would probably say a bit more. And this doesn't include this includes my forecast. Really, these forecasts are really hard to predict, and honestly, even if any given forecast gets just a few regions right, then that means that they've done a really good job. And I like showing the Farmer's Almanac because some people obviously swear by it, some people laugh at it, but regardless, they've done a good job. These from what I've been tracking these past few years, they usually get at least a few regions correct, and I'm just going to be comparing their forecast to mine and what I would put. Mine still hasn't come out yet. I still haven't completed the video. Usually I do record these videos once I already recorded mine, but a little bit of a delay this year. I will be releasing my winter forecast soon, so kind of stay tuned for that. Again, more for the fun of it, but I usually do at least get a few regions right, so I'm very happy with that. And this year I may not get any, so it's not really my past performance is not a prediction of, or any I guess any indicator of the future performance. So let's just stop rambling, or at least I should stop rambling. Let's start talking about this. So this is what they think will be occurring. This is the newer Farmer's Almanac, not the old one. So I guess this makes it the new one. Notice, let's just start off from the northwest. They have this divided by region. So they have brisk and normal precipitation for the northwest. I personally do think that there will be, they have brisk. I do think that it will be chillier. I would probably use a more aggressive word, maybe like chilly or even cold, but at least they're showing that it will be on a chillier side. Normal precip, I personally think it's a La Nina year, so at least especially in the first part of the year, or winter, December, maybe late November, early January, it will be colder there, and especially wetter. I think there will be quite a bit of snow and rain for those areas. So otherwise than that, I do think that they have a pretty good, I guess, description of that. I do completely agree with the Southwest. I think it will be mild. I think it will be warmer. And I do think that it will be rather dry. How dry? Again, it's really hard to tell, because if you remember last year, during the December months, or the December days, we had several large storms that moved through the Southwest, and it looked like it could be a very good precipitation season, but then it just turned out to be nothing in particular, and actually ended up being much below average, as January, February, and March, I think, just set these really dry streaks, and that was also La Nina year, so it's tough to tell, but I do think that this year will be similar in that sense that, not necessarily that the snow will fall at the same times it did last year, just probably less than average, unfortunately, for the Southwest, so I do agree with that. Now, hibernation zone, glacial snowfield. You can see that's the north central United States right there. That does sound aggressive. You may think that's just, them being extreme, but, La Nina years, especially the last two, have proven that area in La Nina years is usually the one that it turns out to be the most kind of consistent. And I do have the most confidence probably out of all my areas, or all the areas on the U.S. I think that one is going to be cold, and I do think that glacial snowfield, they're trying to get your attention to that, because I think they have good confidence in what they based off their forecast, that it will be cold, and I agree with that. I do think it will be a very cold year for those areas. Yet again, I don't know if it will reach all the way down into Missouri, that cold air. It could get bottled up just across the northern states. I mean, we saw this last year. If you ask any folks across North Dakota, Minnesota, especially last year and the year before, it's been a rather cold past few winters there, to say the least, and I think this year will be no exception. Again, how far south the cold air gets, it's a bit uncertain, because especially earlier on, I think the cold air will be kind of bottled up towards the northern half of these areas here, these states in this area. Especially if we were to transition into a neutral pattern in the second half of the winter year, that makes the jet stream a bit more, if you will, wavy, and that could, I guess, release some of this cold air deeper into the southern United States, and that could obviously spill and cause issues like we saw in 2020, where Texas froze. That's kind of what happened. The cold air was bottled up here for a while, while, and the jet stream kind of broke out, and it caused this extreme Arctic outbreak. So whether or not that happens, we don't know, but the same kind of patterns and the same characteristics are set up for this year. So I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I'm just letting you know. So better to prepare than completely be taken off guard like almost everyone was that one year. Notice the Great Lakes unreasonably cold, snowy. I don't know if unreasonably cold is a proper word I would use. I personally think it will be chillier than normal, but I don't think it would necessarily be freezing. I don't know how far east this cold air will get. Typically during La Nina years, cold air doesn't get much further east than, say, I guess the Mississippi River, or at least consistent cold air. Usually it comes in with kind of little bouts, and whether or not it's a more wavy jet stream or whatnot, it's kind of these little smaller details that I guess direct whether or not these areas get more or less cold in any particular La Nina year. Though I do think it will be snowier. I think the combination of warm air from the south and cold air from the north will create a good storm track, and that will probably also lead to some decently above active precipitation that could be in the form of rain and snow for the Great Lakes and the Northeast. Here I would say slushy is a good term because I don't know how cold it will be here. It may be honestly even warmer. They do have significant shivers. I do think there will be several cold blasts that blast through the Northeast that are going to be of significant value. Whether or not it's consistent, I have my doubts. I have my significant doubts. Though I do think because of that, snowstorms will be occurring pretty frequently. That could be dropping snow, but also ice, but also rain. Kind of a mixed bag. Though definitely a active year and potentially a headache year, if you will, for the Northeast. Notice that the Southeast do have the Farmer's Almanac has shivery, wet, and slushy. I would agree with the wet. I don't know again how far south this cold air that will be bottled up here, and again I have pretty strong confidence it will be. I don't know how far south it will get down here, and the thing is with the Southeast that even if you do have a warm year, right, a warm winter, and you get 2 to 3 snowstorms that are pretty significant, that is really kind of what marks the winter as being snowy. The Southeast, the snowy winter for the Southeast usually isn't defined by a consistently cold winter. And there have been years like that before, but sometimes if you get 1 to 2 snowstorms and 2 to 3 weeks of cold, brutal air relative for the Southeast, that can mark the winter and be kind of left in remembrance of people living there as being snowy. So, I would say overall there will be a lot more warmer days and colder days for the Southeast, but I do think that there's a decent chance that there could be several big snowstorms across the Southeast, which could kind of, leave a mark in terms of, a snowy winter for that factor. And again, how far southeast? Again, not like Florida, but, Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina. Definitely an area that is interesting, though I do believe it will be warmer. And again, that kind of feeds into my other part of the forecast and their forecast as well, that there will be some pretty big storms riding along here, using that moisture and kind of dumping a lot of precip across the Great Lakes and Northeast. Now, going back to the South Central United States, chilly, normal precip. I wouldn't really say normal precip or chilly. I think the northern states could have a good chance of being colder, but I would say it's more of a question mark. And I don't think it will be necessarily one kind of area different from the rest. I think it'll just be a combination. So if it is colder than the average, and the cold air kind of goes further south than average, easily it could be kind of, this I guess blue could be extended towards the south here, right? If it is a warmer and wetter year for the south and not as cold, this wet and slushy and shivery could be kind of extended here. Again, maybe minus the slushiness, just a bit chillier and wetter, but also with good bouts of warmth. Or it could, this drier and warmer pattern could extend into the south central United States, at least for a good portion of it, and dominate that. So I think it'll be kind of a mixed bag here of all these things combined potentially. So that is that. I do think that this is actually a very reasonable forecast. I do have pretty high confidence this will probably, at least several areas will come out. Again, I will be releasing my own winter forecast pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. Now let's take a look at the old Farmer's Almanac. So this is a different agency, but it's also for winter 2022-2023. Do note, right, that we have a good portion of the Northwest as mild. Right away, I don't think it will be mild. I think it will be chillier, though I do agree with it that it will be snowier and wetter. They have dry here. I think it will be also quite a bit wetter there as well. So, I would say that's decent. And do note that they don't do this by region. They just kind of do this, I guess, by weather pattern, if that makes sense, right? So cold, snowy, it stretches for a good portion here of the north central plains. I think that's accurate. Cold, dry, that's possible. Could be drier, especially if the cold air, gets as cold as negatives. You often don't see much snow with that. And a good portion of the eastern, central, southern United States is cold, snowy. I'd be more confident in putting this towards the Great Lakes, not necessarily as far south as they put it here. But again, I do think it will be snowier and wetter. Cold, maybe. And notice that's interesting how they put cold and dry for the southeast. I think it will be wetter and warmer, so I don't really agree with this area whatsoever. But again, that may be very wrong. Interesting how they put Florida as cold and wet. And in the southwest, they have mild and snowy. I do believe it will be milder and warmer, but not necessarily snowier. That's up in the air. But yeah, definitely also a decently put forecast, and we'll just have to wait and see which one, I guess, comes through. I do believe that this forecast, the 2022 Farmer's Almanac forecast, probably has more chances of becoming true. But again, that's just really my opinion. And I want to show you one more thing before I leave here. The 2023 winter's outlook for Canada, because I showed you the U.S., but now I want to show you Canada. I know I have Canadian viewers, and as kind of I thought, they just pretty much extended a lot of these areas up into Canada. So the northwestern United States was brisk temperatures and average precip. They extended that for Canada. You could see, and I do think there will be pretty chilly temperatures, but I think it will be wetter. So that's one area I disagree in. Again, I think that's pretty accurate. Hibernation zone, glacial snowfield, that seems accurate. For the Great Lakes, they had very cold snowfield, right? I do think that it's more reasonable of this area being colder here, and I probably have more agreements with Ontario being colder and snowier than the Great Lakes, as again, it's a bit more uncertainty. And then they have reasonably cold and snowy for Quebec as well. Again, I don't know about the cold. I do think it will be snowier and wetter though. So that is definitely something to kind of note. And I do think that a lot of the coastal areas, Labrador and Nova Scotia, these areas will have a lot of activity in terms of cold. Again, it's very hard to tell. But that is that. Thank you guys so much for watching. That is essentially it. I will be releasing my forecast. Again, I'm probably saying this for 10,000th time soon. So stay tuned for that. And hopefully you guys just got a better look, at the Farmer's Almanac, because maybe you wouldn't have seen it otherwise. And I think it's just really cool to show some, inputs on this. And again, they've done a pretty good job the last years. I've been watching them. And, surprisingly, honestly, presently surprised. So I wanted to show that to you today. All right, that's basically it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya.